Okay, so you should be able to see that red dot at the upper portion of the screen that indicates we are recording this session. This is for the benefit of your classmates who won't be able to join us this morning. And so, yeah, let's proceed with our discussion for today. So this session is to close your PRACRES1 step in the entire practical research journey for your senior high school experience. So Pracres will not end with this subject, and for most of you, you will be continuing on the seeds that you planted this semester until you basically graduate from senior high school. So in order to make sure that you don't end up being lost in the process, I would like to close the term for our subject by giving you an overview of what's going to happen next after this term. So let's first recap the purpose of the practical research subjects. So the DLSU Integrated School Senior High School graduate outcomes include the following characteristics. We hope to create students who are research and service-oriented, and Lasallians that are ready to respond to the university's vision and mission. So, and what is this vision and mission? So the vision and mission of the DLSU system is to be a leading learner-centered research university that bridges faith and scholarship, attuned to a sustainable earth in the service of church and society, especially the poor and marginalized. So the Pracres course falls within the achievement of helping create a research university. But at the same time, we hope that at least a portion of your research touches on the creation of a sustainable earth. And if not that, that the outputs of your research can be in the service of society, especially the least, the last, and the lost. So the Integrated School SHS research curriculum is generally designed towards the integration of key concepts dependent on whether you belong to ABM, HUM, STEM, A&D, or sports. So in your case, we are focused in STEM. So we are hoping for you to do specific research in the field of STEM. And this is an opportunity for you to demonstrate knowledge, skills, and emotional disposition. So that includes emotional maturity and professionalism that you are basically expected to have before you are allowed to graduate from the DLSU SHS program. So the not so hidden goals of the SHS research includes development of problem-solving skills. And when we say problem-solving, we don't just mean mathematical problem-solving, but real-life problem-solving. Like, ayaw mag-respond ng advisor, anong gagawin natin? Sino ang kakausapin? Sino ang i-email? Late nag-reply yung mentor when it comes to feedback. How do we follow up? Hindi nagre-reply si groupmate. How do we catch up on the submissions that we have to do? May pandemic, hindi tayo makapag-lab. Paano natin magagawa yung research sa bahay? So those are some of the problem-solving skills that we want you to develop. We also want to train you to become lifelong learners, which is basically the inculcation of the nature of curiosity, to ask questions about the world and to use the scientific method in order to find the truth about certain situations. We also want to encourage creativity or alternative thinking. What are the innovative or alternative ways to solve problems in such that you don't always have to follow the same basic steps that everybody else is doing. You don't have to be confined within the four corners of a box. And we also want to enhance your social skills and values, primarily honesty, especially with plagiarism and how to write something using your own words, honesty in terms of reporting your feedback to your teacher, honesty to your group mates about what you can or you cannot contribute to the group. Respect for deadlines, respect for your advisors, your mentors, and your coordinators, respect for each other. Responsibility and diligence, how to stand up for yourself, how to take charge of certain situations if you think things are not going in the right direction, giving your contribution to a group work as honestly and as timely as possible. And finally, professionalism, the language by which you talk to each other, the language by which you write to your advisors and to your mentors, and of course, how well your manner or demeanor is in responding to your group mates. So all of these things are part of the training for Practical Research 1. And these are definitely not soft skills as what that term implies. These are very, very important characteristics that you will have to use, especially once you reach your professional stage. Because at the end of it, we have to remain honest. We have to remain respectful. We have to remain responsible and diligent, and we have to remain professional, even if some of our fellow workers are not professional. So it's part of the training because you will have to be that until you grow up. So this is basically the research implementation pathway. I would like you to focus on this side, which is for STEM. So ideally, I guess if we weren't in a pandemic, one of the things that you should have experienced before PRACRES1 is some form of outreach, which is an exposure to the Philippine situation so that you can identify the best possible research that your group can accomplish. Ideally, this is also linked to the program that you're going to go to into college. So for example, as I mentioned at the start of the term, if you want to be an engineer, ideally, your project should be on some form of engineering principle. If you want to go to the College of Computer Studies, it has to be in that. If you want to go into medicine, maybe something to do with biology or psychology, and so on and so forth. In Practical Research 1, you are given instructions to start writing your research proposal, specifically the first 2 chapters, which are the introduction and the review of related literature. Given the limitations of the pandemic, we didn't put a hard imposition for you to find an advisor just yet. Although I'm happy to report that 5 out of the 7 groups, or I think maybe even 6, at least have informed me that they have an official advisor or at least belong to a department. So I'm waiting on, I think, 2 more groups for the confirmation about their final topic because I haven't really received anything from them yet. But at least for 5 of the 7 groups, you're good to go, and I'm very happy and proud of your progress so far. Now, for Practical Research 2, it will be another classroom experience. So you will have a mentor and an advisor. A mentor will be just like me, a classroom teacher who will teach you how to write the methodology, the abstract, and also prepare you for the upcoming proposal defense. So for Practical Research 2, you will be facing a panel from the department that you belong to who will be evaluating your proposal. And they will be checking the merits and demerits of this proposal to see if it passes the standards of their discipline. So Practical Research 2 is a little bit more critical because if you don't get the approval of the panel in Practical Research 2, you will have to adjust and edit your proposal accordingly. Now, for most of you who already have an advisor or at least belong to a department for this semester, you will be continuing the topic that you started in PRACRES1. For others that don't have an official advisor or department yet, you will have to find a department and an advisor in PRACRES2. You cannot move on to inquiries, investigations, and immersions without an advisor. So by PRACRES2, you will have to find this. The worst case scenario is that SHS will assign you an advisor, and the difficulty there is you will not necessarily get to work on a topic that you're interested in or that you came up with. So that's the worst case scenario. But ideally, for those of you who officially found an advisor in PRACRES1, you will be continuing being under their research group in PRACRES2 until PRACRES4. So once you succeed in the proposal defense in Practical Research 2, you will move on to inquiries, investigations, and immersions that we generally just call PRACRES3. So here you do your data collection, you actually do the methodology that you promised to do. You create your analysis and your interpretation. Ideally, you start writing your chapter 3 your chapter 4, which is the results and discussion by Pracres 3. Now, by Pracres 4, which is the research project, this is when you do your final defense. Most students aim to present their paper in the DLSU SHS Research Congress because this will give you an exemption to the grading for the defense. You get an automatic perfect score if your paper is accepted into the DLSU SHS Research Congress. Of course, this is competitive, and so not everybody gets to present there. In the event that you are not accepted in the DLSU SHS Research Congress, you will have to do a final defense, which is again in front of a group of panelists from the department that you belong to, and they will be giving comments and criticisms to your work. So ideally, you are also encouraged to try and aim for a scientific publication by the end of Pracres 4, but this is upon the approval of your advisor. Please take note that the intellectual property of your research is shared between you and your advisor. You do not have exclusive ownership to your topic. And this is because this was developed side by side with your advisor. So everything that will happen to this topic will have to be with the approval of your advisor in the future. Okay? Now, once you survive Pracres 4, either the final defense or the research congress, you will now have completed the practical research journey. Okay? So currently, you are completing practical research 1. So for most of you, for at least 4 of the 7 groups in class, you already have a functional draft of your introduction as well as your RRL. The only thing that you need to do is to polish it a little bit based on the recommendations I sent to the comments section of your submission. For one group, they've submitted the RRL. I've already given the comments. I think they did a pretty good job, and I'm just waiting for their introduction. For 2 groups, I'm still waiting for both your RRL and your introduction, which I hope you get to submit before the end of the term, because otherwise you will have to repeat Pracres 1. So immediately after this, again, you will be moving on to practical research 2. You will have class lecturer and an advisor. So there will be now a specific amount of time that you will have to spend with your advisor. For Pracres 1 kasi, we only require at least 1 consultation with the advisor, and then the subsequent consultations is dependent upon you and the advisor. For practical research 2, you are now required to regularly consult with your advisor, and they will help shape or change your introduction, your RRL, as well as your methodology. So the methodology portion and the research design will be created with the approval of the advisor and the class lecturer. And again, at the end of the term for Pracres 2, you will have a formal proposal defense in the department that you belong to. So a portion of your grade for practical research 2 will be given by your advisor, by the panelists in your defense, and by the class lecturer. And like here in practical research 1, 100% of your grade will come from me. Okay? But in Pracres 2, it is shared between the class lecturer, the advisor, and the panelists for your proposal defense. Once you move on to inquiries, investigations, and immersions, it will no longer have a classroom setup. It will be controlled by your advisor only. So it's either a weekly consultation, a monthly consultation, or just by emails. It depends upon you and the advisor. So you will have certain goals within the term for data collection, and 100% of your grade will come from your advisor alone. So at this point in time, I would like to give everyone a piece of advice and maybe also a warning. Please make sure to keep your advisor happy, because your advisor at this point is your key to research success. If you have a good and healthy relationship with your advisor, your Pracres journey will be smooth. But if you don't have a good relationship with your advisor, if naiirita sila sa inyo, if nagalit sila sa inyo, if lagi kayong late sa consultation, if hindi kayo nagpaparamdam, then there is a very high likelihood that your practice journey will be difficult and that you will end up having a low grade. So at this point, your advisor can make or break you. Your advisor can open doors and help you get into college. They can help you get into amazing research teams. They can help find you funding. They can help publish your paper, or they can simply ignore you because they were angry or pissed off by something that you did early on. So always be polite, magparamdam, okay? If you need help from your advisor, please take charge and email them politely about it, but don't nag. Just be present, okay? Make sure that your advisor is aware that you exist rather than you waiting for your advisor to contact you. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, your advisors are barely paid. Actually, halos wala silang nakukuhang anything from being your advisor. So, I don't know why that is, but they have very little honorarium. So, the only reason why they accept you is because they are passionate about research or because they see some potential in the research that you want to do. But yun para siya halos kawang gawa. No, they're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. So you have to function knowing that at the end of it, they're teaching full time, they're researching full time, and they're adding you to their responsibilities. So please make it as easy as possible for your advisors also. Okay. Now for your final research, the transition between PRACRES 3 and PRACRES 4 is a little blurred because the submissions for the research congress for some reason opens up by the end of PRACRES 3, which is frustrating because a lot of us are still doing data collection, and it closes somewhere early in PRACRES 4. So that's why usually by the end of PRACRES 3, hindi nyo mararamdaman yung vacation kasi baka nagsusulat pa rin kayo for your thesis para makapag-submit on time for PRACRES 4. Okay? But PRACRES 4, if you get into the DLSU Research Congress, will be definitely lighter because that means you're done with everything. And all you need to do is present and also wait to see if there are revisions that are needed to be done. So if you work hard in PRACRES 3, PRACRES 4 would be relatively chill. But if you don't end up completing everything by PRACRES 3, PRACRES 4 can become very difficult because you will have to finish everything on time so that you graduate. Okay, so that's the limiting factor with PRACRES 4. Now, here are some descriptions of the practical research curriculum. So PRACRES 2, again, that's what's coming up next. You are expected to describe either or and qualitative and quantitative methods for you to pursue your research. Some of you already have an idea about the things that you have to do right now. For others, not so much. So you need to have a research design and the instruments that you're going to use, the data collection methods, and the analysis procedure. For PRACRES 3, you are expected to actually execute the experiments, prototype development and data collection. You have to analyze the data with intellectual honesty and form logical conclusions and make recommendations based on those conclusions. And for PRACRES 4, you are expected to write a clear report and also do a final defense. A preliminary defense is done in PRACRES 2, which is basically the go signal for you to proceed with the research. Now, for PRACRES 1, I repeat, you are expected to submit your introduction and your RRL for the 4 groups who are more or less done. I only expect to see some polish that are needed. For the other groups, I still need to see your introduction and your RRL. This week is the last week for SHS. Okay? Nasa huling linggo na tayo, and I think I'm supposed to submit your grades by May 31. So that's why if you look at your animal space modules, you can see that the final version, the deadline for the final version of the introduction and RRL is on May 27th. Okay, so that's this coming Thursday. So for those of you who haven't submitted anything yet, you have until May 27 to do that and also submit your other missed requirements. So obviously, for some of your classmates, they had a first draft and a second draft. What does that mean? For those of you who submitted the first draft, you already know your scores for that. The second draft gives you an opportunity to push your scores up higher. So they have an opportunity to improve their grades even better. But for those of you who will only be submitting this May 27, that's your first draft and your final draft already. So your score for both will be the same. And if it's good, then it will be high. But if it's not so good, then it will be low. But at least you submitted something. So I'm hoping that by May 27, I would get submissions from all groups. But otherwise, for those who won't be able to submit them, then I'm sorry, I have to give you a score of 0 for those requirements. And I will leave it up to the office of Miss Liz to talk to you about your next steps for practical research 1. So that's it for our summary orientation or end of term orientation for the semester. So thank you so much for your participation throughout the term. I've enjoyed seeing your ideas evolve and also seeing the improvements in your writing. I'm very impressed with your ingenuity, with your ability to create things from scratch, and really, really good job for the groups who've created amazing proposals as early as Pracres1. Okay, so that's it from me. Do we have any questions from the class? You can type your questions in the chat so I can answer them. So one of the questions here is, until when po pwede mag-submit ng RRL and or other missed requirements? So as I've mentioned, May 27. Okay, as long as I receive it on May 27, I can spend May 28 grading it, May 29 grading it, and hopefully submit your grades on time by the SHS deadline, which is I think May 31. Okay, anything else from the class? I'll wait for a bit just in case. Okay, for those who don't have any questions, can you type in none, just so I'm sure that you're just waiting? Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for attending our last session for the term. So congratulations for those who are more or less done with their chapters 1 and 2, and wishing you the best of luck for the rest of your practical research journey. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you around. Bye. Thank you.